What is up, everyone? Big news in the world of Polytopia. Midjuan, the creator of the game, took to all of his social media channels today and posted this image with the caption, Socrates in Polytopia. This caught many longtime players off guard, since Socrates already is in Polytopia. Granted, he's only ever been in the code, which most players assumed was some kind of joke. Could Midjuan actually be hinting at a full release of Socrates into the game? I've got the inside scoop and run this channel to keep you guys informed. Let's talk about the details and how we know this. Vorse, a community veteran, absolute legend, used to be an alpha tester, and he told me all about how Socrates worked in the alpha leading up to version 88. Outside of being named in the code, this was the only time we've ever seen him in the game. But this alpha was apparently crazy because Socrates was a full playable unit. Socrates, the unit, not the man, is powerful with strong connections to parks. When a player makes 4 parks, they unlock the ability to train Socrates. Moreover, a Socrates unit is summoned on the last city to get a park, in the same way a super unit would be. This was from before the buff parks received, granting +1 star per turn, and maybe an attempt at how to do this kind of buff. It does feel a little lacking creatively, a new kind of super unit replacing the old one, so it's no surprise they went with the income boost instead, but that's besides the point. Socrates, even with the 4 parks requirement, was a beast. Effectively, he was a mindbender with dash. I suppose this is a testament to his skills as an orator, and the fact that he can be killed very easily is probably referencing the way in which he was executed for introducing novel divinities and corrupting the youth. Probably only because it never received a public release, Socrates cost 0 stars in this version of the game. Obviously, this Socrates is incredibly overpowered on larger maps, especially with the buff parks have received since then. In fact, it's hard to imagine a version of Socrates that works in the game at all. Nevertheless, it is still being hinted at that might be just what we get. Socrates fits surprisingly well into this world, so inspired by our own in ancient times. Moreover, the Socrates we really know is a fictional character. We know when Socrates the human being lived, and we know that he was ugly, but his thoughts, philosophy, and teachings, we only know about those from the writings of others. Plato used Socrates as a character who teaches his own philosophy, concepts Socrates never lived to hear. He now speaks on authoritatively in Plato's works, speaking about forms and the fate of the immortal soul. Even Aristotle, the student of Plato, a man born decades after Socrates was put to death, writes with Socrates as his puppet. Polytopia's new characterization of Socrates will be in a long line of fictional depictions of the character, and I think Socrates wouldn't want it any other way. Facing the death sentence, Socrates seemed completely unperturbed, even welcoming of death in Xenophon's account of his defense. Hermogenes says that seeing Socrates discoursing on every topic rather than that of his impending trial, he roundly put it to him whether he ought not to be debating the line of his defense. To which Socrates, in the first instance, answered, "What, do I not seem to you to have spent my whole life in meditating my defense?" And when Hermogenes asked him how, he added, "By a lifelong persistence in doing nothing wrong." Hermogenes demanded, "Do you not see, Socrates, how often Athenian juries are constrained by arguments to put quite innocent people to death, and not less often to acquit the guilty, either through some touch of pity excited by the pleadings, or that the defendant has skill to turn some charming phrase?" Thus appealed to, Socrates replied, "Nay, solemnly I tell you, twice already I have essayed to consider my defense, and twice the divinity hinders me." And to the remark of Hermogenes, "That is strange," he answered again, "Strange, do you call it, that to God it should seem better for me to die at once? Do you not know that up to this moment I will not concede to any man to have lived a better life than I have, since what can exceed the pleasure, which has been mine, of knowing that my whole life has been spent holily and justly?" And indeed, this verdict of self-approval I found re-echoed in the opinion which my friends and intimates have formed concerning me. And now, if my age is still to be prolonged, I know that I cannot escape paying the penalty of old age, and increasing dimness of sight and dullness of hearing. I shall find myself slower to learn new lessons, and apter to forget the lessons I have learnt. And if to these be added the consciousness of failing powers, the sting of self-reproach, what prospect have I of any further joy in living? It may be, you know, he added, that God, out of his great kindness, is intervening on my behalf. Cold Socrates. At the trial itself, Socrates goes on to claim that the gods show him special favor, which upsets his jurors. Noticing how upset they are, he continues, Chaerephon once, in the presence of many witnesses, put a question at Delhi concerning me, and Apollo answered that there was no human being more liberal, more upright, or more temperate than myself. Now, the modern scholar has the ability to run a quick Google search for Chaerephon and find out immediately that he's a devoted follower of Socrates. Imagine being on trial with your life hanging in the balance and saying, well, if you ask my best friend, he'll tell you that Apollo likes me best. Couldn't be me, sorry. Absolutely wild behavior. He goes on like this for a while before returning to address one accuser in particular. And yet, in spite of all, Meletus, you will have it that by such habits I corrupt the young. We know, I fancy, what such corrupting influences are, and perhaps you will tell us if you know of anyone who, under my influence, has been changed from a religious into an irreligious man, who from being sober-minded has become prodigal, from being a moderate drinker has become a wine-bibber and a drunkard, from being a lover of healthy honest toil has become effeminate, or under the fall of some other wicked pleasure. Nay, bless my soul, exclaimed Meletus. I know those whom you persuaded to obey yourself rather than their fathers who begat them. I admit it, Socrates replied, in the case of education, for they know that I have made the matter a study, and with regard to health, a man prefers to obey his doctor rather than his parents. Despite his arguments, it seems like Socrates had a sham trial with a predetermined outcome. He's expected to apologize and fall in line, live out the rest of his life like a dog. He just went to the trial and said, I didn't do anything wrong, I'm actually pretty great. And so they voted to kill him. Later on, in the company of his followers, Socrates says, I know that testimony will be borne to me also by time future and time past, that I never wronged another at any time or ever made a worse man of him. I only ever tried to benefit those who practiced discussion with me, teaching them gratuitously every good thing in my power. And when he perceived those who followed him by his side were in tears, What is this? He asked. Why do you weep now? Do you not know that for many a long day, ever since I was born, a sentence of death was passed upon me by nature? At this moment there was a certain Apollodorus, who was an enthusiastic lover of the master, but to the rest was a simple-minded man. He exclaimed very innocently, But the hardest thing of all to bear, Socrates, is to see you put to death unjustly. Whereupon Socrates, it is said, gently stroked the young man's hand. Would you have been better pleased, my dear one, to see me put to death for some just reason, rather than unjustly? Truly, he was a man at peace with his own dying. Not fearing the results of his trial, he was able to live out his final moments in freedom. It is arrogance that killed Socrates. It is arrogance that he lives forever. A defeated philosopher, submitting to political authorities, does not live forever in poetry. Socrates does. Not the man, but the character. The teacher who demands you investigate your cognitive biases, and think about how anyone could ever believe that Socrates was coming to Polytopia. April Fools, everyone. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I usually don't do anything postscript, but I felt it was appropriate here. I just wanted to thank everyone who got us to 400 subscribers. The other 24 of you are worthless though until we hit 500. I don't make the rules. And an update for the channel's first ever poll. There's a feature on YouTube for creators in YouTube Studio called Trends, where you can look at searches people who watch your videos make, and videos YouTube likes to serve to your audience. As you can see, according to this data, you guys apparently like Polytopia and poop. Again, I don't make the rules. It's pretty useless for me who makes, well, whatever it was you just watched. Obviously, I'm not chasing trends. But what I really enjoy about this feature is that anyone can use it. Anyone. You don't even have to have published a video for it to work. Before this channel had any videos on it, I did just that, and the options it gave me were the history of architecture in New York, best budget headphones, and fast and fluffy pancake recipe. So I made a YouTube poll asking everyone what video I should make. The recipe video won, so here goes. You want these ingredients, mix them together as a batter, pour them out into a pancake shapes on a griddle, 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Flip them when they're ready on one side, serve with your choice of fruit, syrup, powdered sugar. If you make too many of them, you can also freeze them. They reheat very well in the microwave, absorbing moisture from the syrup. Enjoy!